LDLC, of course, 13 games undefeated until game 2 of this series, and now, I mean, all it takes is 3 losses for you to lose the title.
Yeah, we kind of called it the unlucky number 13. Eh? This is going real well.
I feel like at this point, I'm so happy to see LDLC on blue side because it means they're going to go for the front to back. You don't necessarily have the counter picks. You know you're going to give R5 to Cabo Shot, so I'm expecting maybe the Sion, the Na, the Ornn to come through for Ragnar on the top side of the map. Now the question is, do you ban the Rakan? Because yes, the misfortune was a problem on Reckless. He's done really well onto the champion, but I feel like also Hantera has had one of his best games and series onto the Rakan back-to-back. The previous series versus Vitality B, and here so far.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the biggest thing here is like seeing the Zeri coming through on the blue side. Really surprised to see that because you kind of think, oh, well, chances are you've got first pick Zaya here that can do a really good response to that. That seems to be the best way to try and like work through that scenario is like, hey, we'll go for the Zaya pick, but not going to be the case. So we're getting the Jarvan taken off the board, the Ahri gone as well. Like, there's just like, there's so much here where you're still kind of looking, going, hey, we got LeBlanc open. That's the best option here, it feels like.
I agree with you there, and with the Jarvan being banned away, we'll see how LDLC wants to round out the first pick of their draft in that first rotation. Of course, very important to look towards your jungler. We often see mid lane in that first rotation alongside the AD carry as well. Karmine Corp still have 1 ban left. I wonder if they'll look to Volibear instead. They want to get rid of that top lane tank, and the Ornn is taken out of the pool. Ooh.
So this is the first time we've actually seen the Rise left open the entire time for LDLC. So I'm really curious to see if Karmine Corp are going to go towards that, or if they're just going to stick to what's the tried and tested method here for Forsaken, not only in this series, but in the previous series against Vitality B, which is going for more of those big damage dealers in the mid lane.
No. Volibear locked in and Hantera yet again on the Rakan. I feel like this time Dosh has to go on the offensive. He has to lock in something like a Leona, something like a Nautilus, and just completely punish the Rakan in lane, not allow him to roam.
I agree with you there. I also think, although we are on 12-6, something like a Poppy, something that you haven't seen much this series, something that could really upset the ability to engage, could work out well.
I'd actually love to see the Lee Sin, which is actually going to be taken. I think Lee Sin does really well here because when you look at the 80 carries that are left available, you're not having much mobility, right? Zai's the only one that's really there. So you've got the threat if you want to try and go for some of these mid lane mages like the Victor and the, not so much the Azir, but definitely with the Victor, you can try and play towards that. You've also got the opportunity to take the LeBlanc here. You played through that crazy strong mid jungle. It just feels like that's your best way as LDLC to try and power through this because it feels like the lack of mid jungle has really been hurting you in quite a bit of this.
This is so strong right here, and this is actually really clever from LDLC because we talked about the fact that your blue side, you will want to play the front to back. And I think Ragnar has been so incredibly brilliant on tanks like the Ornn and like the Sion. So shove him on the top side on something that he can't die and then play your game. I'm assuming the Lee Sin be locked in here needs a pretty aggressive mid lane duo as well. Having Seiken onto the Azir, once he uses his E pre-level 6 where he doesn't have the ultimate, yeah, it can actually punish.
I'm going to say something and I'm really sorry for everyone at home. I'd really like to see Ica and Corki. Actually going really well here.
It's an international tournament. Corki Azir has to exist.
Because I think you've got like, all right, forget about your mid jungle kind of combo there, but you've got like good poke, which works with the Zaya. You got great late game scaling, the opportunity to like separate team fights, like that actually offers a huge amount to LDLC. And look, I know that the package changes kind of put him off a cliff, but against something like a Corki, against the Azir, Corki actually works really well.
I agree with you, and I think Karmine Corp here are pushing themselves towards AD carry into top lane pick, you know, with no AD carries actually being banned away. I wonder if Karmine Corp decide to play something like the Ezreal. It's safe against the Lee Sin. You said the lack of mobility on AD carries can often be punished, but Ezreal alongside Azir gives you a lot of late game damage. You now have counter pick for top laners last, even though you've already seen the Sion. It gives you that option to have a little bit more safety in your top lane pick.
I'm not a big fan of the Rise here if we're going to go for it. I just feel like you get shoved in by the Azir too much and you just don't get the opportunity to roam. We even saw Seiken picking into this. Okay. So not a Corki, but still that, you know, long range mage.
Okay. Yeah. That's a surprise. I'll be honest. I mean, Xerath, I believe, if I remember correctly, and this is from the annals of my brain, Ica used to play a lot of Xerath in solo queue. Like a few years ago now, before he went over to Immortals, I remember him being an incredibly good Xerath player. What will they team it up with? Do you need more engage? Something like the Alistair, the Scions there as well. Those you can have Scion as initial and then Leona as follow-up.
I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of Leona here because Nautilus is literally the easiest point click I'm going to knock up at anyone, even if they run away, such as Ezreal and Azir, right? But DOS is going towards comfort. He loves playing that. Leona loves roaming around with Yike onto the Lee Sin. Now, I'm wondering what is Xerath going to provide here because he has Endless Prior in the mid lane by shoving in the waves, but then you can also assist with your long-range ultimate if there is a fight into River without you having to walk into River.
Yeah. It does definitely feel like LDLC, though we're going back to basics. Like, look, we are going to beat you late game. We are just going to take these late game fights with the Xerath, with the Mega Tank in the top side, and that's how we're going to start to close out this game. And it feels like, at least for Karmine Corp, you do have some scaling options in the Azir, but certainly the spike is more in the mid game, so it's on you to try and get these early objectives set up so then Xerath hasn't become that mega late game mage alongside this Mega Tank and the Scion, and you can actually have a chance to fight against them.
And an issue for Karmine Corp, because this draft actually looks a lot like their Game 1 draft. An issue in Game 1 was they didn't have the damage to get through a Scion. Like, who was ever going to work through it? Now, you have the Azir, you have a little bit more damage over time in these team fights. Can they find enough damage to kill off Ragnar?
Well, that's a big question for me, but also I think the Azir can at least answer that to a certain extent, but the big problem for Azir is no real setup for the volley. You're not really going to be ganking mid. You're looking bot side, it's an Ezreal. You don't really want to be ganking for an Ezreal. So now you're only going to be in on Cabochard on the top side, and that is kind of been the case that we saw in game number 1, where LDLC were able to take it because the winning mid, winning bot, and then they play for late game team fights. So this is feeling to me a little bit like game 1.
Okay, is it Karmine Corp's title after this game? Trouble?
It could very well be,
that's
but
not
I'm
what I
going to
asked.
side with...
Is it?
No.
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 No. Okay, we're going to game 5 according to our analysts here. Casters, do or die for LDLC. If they lose, they are out, and Karmine Corp will claim their 3rd title in a row. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Medic, of course, Dagda and Trouble. Very curious draft, but we did a little digging. We did a little bit of digging. We have seen...
Got the spades and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. We had the little, what are the trolls? Little things you pick up the little small plants with. But the last time we saw Ica play this is Xerath into an Azir was actually in the regular season of LFL 2022 this spring.
Did they win?
No, they did not. The Xerath was not able to overcome the Azir, and this is just coming down to, honestly, who's this man in the mid lane for the side of Karmine Corp, who's just been such a monster. Seiken has been huge so far this series.
Well, the question is whether he's going to have the same agency in this game, because you get to the point where this Xerath, if it hasn't been shut down, you get hit by like 1 Q, an ult when you're stood on a ward which has been placed far up in lane. You can actually just be forced out of a lot of fights. I wonder whether LDLC, because it is one of their specialties in defending weaker mid lane laning champions like the Xerath, whether they found a bit of an answer here to the Azir.
That's the thing, and at the same, I have so many things I want to dive into from this matchup specifically, from Yike as well on the Lee Sin, but I think I will start on Yike as well. And to start there, I'll have to start with Seiken against Vitality B. He was on the Azir. Problem was, he was facing Skeen's Lee Sin there, and Skeen's Lee Sin made Seiken's life miserable. Seiken never got to play a fight. He was always insect into the enemy team, and he was just shut down immediately. Now, if Yike can perform those same wonders, a lot of the damage is going to be gone in terms of taking care of this Scion.
And I know there were some question marks about maybe why is it the Leona over the Nautilus. If you think of the Xerath from the mid lane, kind of like the Ziggs Leona from bot lane that we saw a lot, maybe not as much this split, but in a couple of seasons past, you can just see if that Solar Flare ever hits someone important on the side of Karmine Corp, that's going to be Ride of the Arcane flying through, and that's a really powerful combo for LDLC to play around as well. So Karmine Corp have a lot of things to be worried about come mid-game.
Doesn't even have to be someone important. You can pretty much hit anyone outside of the now, right? They'll just blow
Who's
up.
not important to you, Goldborg? Who's not important?
Now that's putting me in this.
I was going to say, you're setting them up to fail here now. Come on. Everyone is important equally in terms of the eyes of Goldberg. In terms of Big G,
Apart from
he loves
Rakan.
all.
Nah.
Mr.
Big G
Goldberg
loves
thinks
all.
all the LSC teams are just as good as each other.
Some more equal than others. But as we come now into this game, we did see an early ward go down onto the top side there for Karmine Corp. They know where Yike is going to be on this Lee Sin. And I want to try and, see what you guys think as well. We talked, or excuse me, Dagda talked about it as well. Where are you going to try and focus here as 1-1-3? Because there's not really a huge amount of lanes that are going to be giving you that same kind of oomph in that 1-3 kind of gank mark.
you are not really being set up for by your lanes. You have to set up for your lanes. So that really means you're effectively looking to who's over pushing. It's not any one lane. It's whether the vision allows for it, which means that, of course, LDLC, they can feel somewhat safe in all lanes, but they need to make sure the wards are there. And currently, there are wards from Karmine on both sides of the map, which will help 113 choose his moment.
It's also why I think that 113, he's just going to be forking, right? Because Capuchin on the top side currently has the wave push, and in the mid lane as well, Seiken just crashed it early as well. The only lane you really have to be aware of is that bot side, but even your bot lane, they have so much mobility. You have an Ezreal, you have a Rakan. If they get caught, it's really on them, and it shouldn't happen. So I think 113 just needs to stabilize, find that level 6, and then when you hit the level 6, that's where you can start being proactive. And for me specifically, I think it's about punishing Iker in the mid lane. If Seraph has no flash, yes, he has long range, but there's nothing stopping Karmine Corp from diving him.
But, you know, every time LDLC has had there's an opening in the mid lane, it feels like Yike's been there, it's felt like DOS has been there. You know what? DOS not being on the Yuumi adds that onto the table again. This has been one of the strengths of LDLC. If they have a champion which is exploitable in mid lane, they cover it incredibly well.
Come back into this game again. Like you said, we talked a lot about kind of the exploits, the opportunities from both of these sides. Hexakick on the Xayah is going to be pretty big, but someone... Let's see what they want to go for. Yike actually did a very creative path there, skipped his wolves, didn't get spotted out by that ward on the Raptors. They didn't know exactly where he was. There was maybe an opportunity cost there, but wasn't able to find anything.
That's the thing, right? It was a little... It's not per se high risk, high reward skipping your wolf camps, right? But it's a scenario where that wolf camp would now be one level lesser than the level camps of 113. And the more you go through this matchup, the faster these resets starts coming through, well, the faster you accelerate your own level 6. 113 already level 4. Yike is only going to be hitting that potentially after this Crocs, if not when he goes back and take care of that wolf camp. So in terms of that win condition we set up of hitting level 6 on 113, at least in the early game, it's favoring K-Corp a little bit.
DOS has actually faked his recall there, sat in that brush. Might he actually be able to catch Karmine Corp's bot lane in lane? Have to see how that one works out.
Level 3.
Yeah, level 3, but there was a ward down. You can see that it was already auto attacked, as we can go in for it now. Reckless will take DOS for a little bit of a ride, and they will get a fair chunk of damage onto him. The W does mitigate a lot of that, as you can see Yike just sitting off onto the bot side, making sure nothing happens while this wave crashes.
That's one of those bot lane kind of those cheeky tricks, which both these lanes have shown throughout the entire tournament. Less against each other in this series. They've both been holding each other to account. You can see again the odd ways you can get leads in 2v2s.
Something super important just happened there. They spotted Yike just before he got the recall. That meant they know they can get aggressive, they know they can push up, but they need to be careful. Reckless, he's low on mana. One Zenith blade connected on the right target could mean disaster. And I think that's why they're recalling here. But DOS, he spotted this.
He has spotted this, Reckless. Thinking that something was up as DOS just walked forward a little bit too aggressively, and they kind of backed themselves away. But this bot lane has been pivotal, but at the same time, not the biggest point of action for either of these sides.
And one of the reasons why you can see these trades kind of being kind of like tentatively gone about is actually, of course, you look at these summoners, not summoners, you look at the keystones. There's an area on the Xayah, you know that's going to add a lot of things in early. It's actually pressed the attack on the Ezreal. We're seeing this a little bit more and more over the last couple of patches, and second dodging like that. But just having the ability to walk in, auto reset with that Q gives you quite a lot of early burst on that Ezreal.
Let's play to the marginals here. Seiken so close to hitting level 6. I wondered if they were looking forward to surprise Iker as soon as he did hit it, but 113 opted in to not stay around. Seiken, he has hit it now. He can push in the mid lane wave, can have the support in mid lane, go up with 113 afterwards to secure this Drake, but he's been a little careful. They're split, and so is DOS.
Gonna go for look for this one here. Huntero got jumped on here, but it's a double knock-off, and Seiken gets them swept underneath the rug, out of sight, out of mind. They don't pick up any kills, and actually right now it's a little bit separated.
No!
DOS gets out with his life. That was beautiful. It secures the dragon, but they didn't get everything they wanted.
That's just straight up daylight robbery. What have we just witnessed?
I mean, when you see two people walk into the river like that, you say, oh, playing around the margins, playing around the level 6s, that is it. Shuffle should have been a huge breaking point for Karmine Corp in this game. If they don't quite get away with it, LDLC have to count themselves incredibly lucky there.
Well, yeah, what a bullet they just dodged. You know, those two kills goes over to the side of K-Corp. They just accelerate what we wanted to come out from, and then they start skirmishing in the opponent's jungle, and that's when you first will find yourself in a disastrous situation. Yike still haven't hit level 6 either on the Lee Sin. Hexa kick.
Oh, great sidestep. That was millimeters away. He gets the root down, he heals, he flashes, but he shall not escape. First blood going over to Karmine Corp.
And what is happening? We're suddenly playing for the bot side this time around with Volibear. 113 being the better one at facilitating it.
And normally when I look at this jungle matchup, I think, okay, Volibear, great in the 2v1s, in solo lanes, level 3, wow, this guy's really hard to beat. But in the bot lane with 3v3s, normally it's Lee Sin doing this.
113 hasn't left, though. They get the Ignite down onto Reckless. Pantera is low. Can they get enough damage down? Yike! Almost doing a bit of a yikes right there, and now he's kind of left DOS to say, I'm so sorry, buddy, we can't make it work.
LDLC, they find their bread and butter by being aggressive, but this time around, they're really just overstepping their line, and it's costing them a lot in this early game.
And it feels like it's just miscalculations. I know that Lee Sin typically does do well in, again, 3v3 situations towards that bot side, but Karmine Corp, it's 1-1-3. It's Pantera, it's Reckless who are getting the better of this bot side of the map. And LDLC, I don't really think their strength has been playing around the bot side of the map. They choose to play towards that area. They're not quite hitting on all cylinders yet.
But it's not really been either of these teams' strong side, really. So it's an adaptation that Karmine Corp comes through with when they know there's a Sion on the top side. They don't have to expend resources into the Gnar. You lead that matchup by themselves. Extra kick in the beginning, though. Oh, Stone Cold Killer not flashing. Unfortunately, it's just not enough, and 113 pushes to flash himself.
And, after that, it's a little bit of miscalculation. You think, okay, no mana left on the Volibear if they are stuck around, but 113 doesn't actually channel the recall.
See a little bit on the live. There's a bit of a scuffle going on onto the Rift Heralds. This is just a very unfortunate overextension, like you guys mentioned, onto the LDLC. Jungler and support. Cabochard is going to lose his Mega. And this is an opportunity. DOS.
5v4.
Ooh, DOS nearly landing that Zenith Blade, almost getting himself set up. But now LDLC, they're thinking they're powerful enough, and they are. So Yike will pick up the Rift Herald. They get the objective despite everything going wrong.
But how unlike is it the way they do it? They put Extra Kick up there. They never do this. It's always about moving your pieces up towards the top side. Let Extra Kick have a favorable 1v1 in the bot side. This time around, though, that was not the story. So now, Reckless, for the first time, will be the AD carry, getting resources for himself down here.
And we did see a couple of times where the AD carries were left in 1v1s, but you're right, it's the first time where Reckless has been truly isolated from his lane opponents, and this has to now be, this has to be a really high value Herald coming out of LDLC now. Now, this is something which we've not actually seen through this series. As you said, it is just a full swap. It's getting X-Kick away from the Rakan. It's getting Cabochard put under turret. Of course, so I'm very happy to wave clear under any kind of turret. He's one of the best lane swap champions in the game. But even with this, I mean, you start looking at that Herald, and I think, I wonder if you need to put that gold into someone like Xerath and just hope they can deal with the Azir and the Ezreal, because they're getting a lot of gold in this early game, starting to favor Karmine Corp.
Yeah, and even then, right, you pick this Seraph into the Azir to really just mitigate the damage to coming through because you can outrange him. So far, they've not been able to play around it. Still 3 members on the top side. Ica from the mid lane moving up as well. We might just have 5 members up here. Rakna no teleport, though. So it will just be 4. One plate falls, but the rest of K-Corp is here to respond now.
Well, you can see that Cabochard on the other side of the map. He's built himself up a hull breaker, and he's isolated in a 1v1 at this point. He did a lot of work in the semi-finals against Vitality B. He was picking up hull breaker Renekton, hull breaker Sion, picked it up on the Gnar this time. And Karmine Corp, if they are going to be facing up against this Xerath, maybe this lessens the impact that that champion's going to have when that comes to the fray. 1-1-3.
Oh, this is fine. DOS and Extra Kick trying to go for a little bit of a cheeky back. They might have been able to get away with it. There wasn't full vision or any vision whatsoever as they go for it. But as you talk about, I love how you mentioned as well a little bit earlier there, Goldberg, Seiken versus Ica, this mid lane matchup, because honestly, it's kind of gone a little bit under the wraps right up until the finals, because Seiken, as you've seen probably from the previous 2 games, has been just a monster so far in this tournament. And first in damage per minute, second in damage percentage. He's always getting himself ahead on lanes. This guy is showing up when it matters most.
And, you know, coming into the tournament, I would have hated to see Seiken all the time on Azir, because I was like, you know, he's best when he's on facilitating champions like the Ryze and Tia, where he's excelling his pressure on the side lane. But the further we've gotten into the tournament, it's just nice to see him on a champion where he can just sit back in lane and just do his thing when he finally hit that late game.
Get yourself a mid laner that can do both.
Honestly.
This guy has been so valuable, and I do think last split, before the finals, I thought, okay, Cabochard's pretty much throughout this entire event made sure that he would be my MVP regardless of the results of the finals. I think for me, it was the decision between Yike and Seiken, maybe Shijanda as well. But I think actually given this finals, Seiken is putting a very strong stake in for unofficial MVP of the tournament.
And on the other side of this, on the other side of this as well, we got to look at the matchup that he's going into, because it is Ica on the other side. And again, you know, this man has not been doing too badly himself. Nearly a 10.0 KDA. He's getting himself very close in terms of the damage per minute, but he just really hasn't made it stick so far this series.
Not this series. I do think that his team has been setting him up across the entire tournament for success. Again, we know the amount of attention and the organization that Yike and DOS have brought to the early game to make sure he gets into a point of power. But as you said, yeah, he's actually not been able to achieve nearly as much as he would have wanted to against his opposite number.
Rift Herald timing out in just about 10 seconds, so Yike, he needs to commit to lane. Someone else is just going to run out.
Yeah.
Will it be top lane? Mid lane has gotten priority now. He can move it up towards the top side.
It has to be
DOS
top.
already in a flank position. Let's see how this one plays out.
He's got to go for it now. Yep, he's going to have to drop it here as DOS. It's a little bit caught out, but again, it is a Leona, and Ike is in a perfect position over the wall. They do get the ultimate here from 113. They land the True Shot Barrage, and Shelly should fulfill her duties. We flash in onto DOS, but that's not really the target you want. They're going to go straight onto 113, who has got stasis, as does Hantera. They've got the right of the Arcane coming in off the back side of this one here. As Ike Seiken once again finds his brush and sweeps up the kill, doing so much with this Azir.
He's making plays that continuously makes you feel like, why is this champion not banned? Why does he continuously get it? He's such a monster on it.
And during that play in particular, Karmine Corp really using all of the resources they had to them. Double stopwatch popped. That meant that Exekick couldn't then set up for the right of the Arcane. Couldn't set up for the Feather Pull even then. And Karmine Corp seriously taking a big fight in this early game.
And importantly as well, Cabochard just got the first turret for himself down towards that bot side, picked up all the plating, got the hull breaker. So even on your side lanes, you're faltering now. You can't win in the skirmishes. Your Sion doesn't hold up against the Na any longer. K-Corp, they feel so good about themselves currently.
And to think, this team was down 0-2, not even just back in the semi-finals. 0-2 versus Vitality B, which I had predicted would make it to the finals.
I predicted they would win.
I predicted they'd make it to at least those finals. I mean, community sentiment, at least on the broadcast, was very much against Karmine Corp. We thought, you know what, they've got too many issues to deal with. They're not playing cleanly, but they've continued to impress, continued to adapt, and they continue to take fights.
Oh, Cabo does land the Gnar off, and that's going to be DOS going down here. They're going to try and trade this one back, though. Cabo has to flash, as Exekick is doing some decent work. Plates have fallen down, so that tower is not long for this world. Now, can you make this one stick, LDLC? They're going to try and go for it. They have to try and make this one work. They don't land the Q, but they do land the kick. And Terra trying to run away off this one as Ragnar is just tanking up the tower. Exekick will pick up one. They will get Yike on the other, and that's two quick kills going over the side of LDLC.
That is a huge play. That's a huge play. It gets the hull breaker off the map for a bit. It gets some gold into Exekick, and we know what Xayah can do when you have relevant gold. It just stops against some of the bleeding which Karmine Corp have induced in LDLC's early game. They've been struggling to make plays. This one's very important to break the momentum.
Seiken, he's going to find himself
A blast
Actually, you know what? DOS will give him the way. He'll just sit around and go, you know what, mate, no problem at all. Pay your bus fare.
Yeah, but and even then, LDLC, they were so good at shutting down the play on the opposite end of the map because Seiken, he was pushing it on that tier 2 turret. Ike still had to teleport, just expanded it to use it down there instead. The teleport from Seiken is not that far ahead on the cooldown either, so really from LDLC, I feel like they put a nice bandage on an early game that was running away from them.
And we got Rift Herald turning up now. 2,000 gold in favor of Karmine Corp. They also have 2 dragons, with that third one spawning in a minute 30. There's not really a position here for LDLC to contest onto this Rift Herald, so they're going to have to give up Shelly too. As I say that, here we go. Tokyo Drift coming in. 113 will get locked up and burst out. That is Ike, that is the glass cannon. So yes, you get the kill on the Shelly, but you can't collect.
Oh, Sucks not using the ultimate there either, but he wanted to secure Shelly before he finally went down with it, and now the eye, it'll just not be picked up. Cabo, he walks forward.
He walks forward and he gets deleted. Exekick picks up that one, and Karmine Corp again are just walking too far forward.
So to answer your earlier statement, apparently Cabochard, very important. He got hit by the CC, he got blown up.
And this is again the combo. It's the not quite Ziggs Leone. You might be more familiar with that one, but the Xerath does so much damage when someone makes sure that all those pesky skill shots are basically point and click. CC, ulting in, airborne, dead, 113. Had to pull that ult early, but didn't understand the threat he was under.
And this has been the story of Cabo as well, because despite how good he's been when he's looking super good, he can't help himself but overstep a little bit.
Cabo give, Cabo take away.
Exactly.
And this is the big thing now. This is for LDLC. They're starting to build a bit of momentum. It was a 2,000 gold lead, so a 1,000 gold lead. They deny the Rift Herald. They now got a little bit of extra gold so they can come back into this dragon fight in 13 seconds.
And what that extra gold injection has meant is that actually now you have a Hull Breaker on the Scion. That evens up that side lane, at least in terms of the ability to clear through those waves and yada yada. Also gets you to item breakpoints on your mid and your AD carry. Those are the two people that are playing around the range advantage and really being the backbone of your fights. LDLC going towards the Dragon. They start up on it. They have positioning.
Yeah, but I don't think they should go for it. Yes, 1-on-3 can go for steal, but Cabochard, he's on the top side. There's 5 members of LDLC. You don't want to overstep this one. I think you just forfeit the objective. You keep the pressure up, but you play for the turrets instead on the top side, and that's exactly what they're doing.
They did the scenic view. They took the scenic shot and just said, "Oh, look, there's a Dragon going down." Didn't do anything about it. They took in the sights.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like just getting 100% confirmation. I know we get a global announcement that the Dragon has been taken nowadays, but you know, just in case,
you have to time it. 5 minute in chat, time it, guys.
I missed those.
How much gold did it give you again back then?
It was scaled. It's scaled. It was like, we didn't have it back in my day, as the resident boomer of the group comes in. But again, this is really, really good momentum from LDLC. We talked about how we wanted to see big players step up, and I do believe that Ragnar and Ica have just been fantastic so far at getting back, because again, Karmine had all the options.
Good guy, Ragnar there, also holding the way for his AD carry, getting the gold into the right places.
Well, you can see that Exakick is a level up on Reckless, despite Reckless being the one facilitated in the early game, and despite it was Exakick who was making rotations. So you can really see why LDLC want to put those eggs in the basket, as we do say. But I also feel like it just speaks to the strength of LDLC. You can never count it out. Even if they fall behind in the early game, they find ways to remain competitive, and we've seen it so many times, and we'll continue to see it.
This is the duality, though, of getting that Hull Breaker for Ragnar right now. He wants to be with his team because that's their big engage as well, but he can't really do anything against the Gnar, so he's kind of not getting benefit from either side.
But in what he's doing with that is allowing Xerath to play through side lanes a lot easier, because Xerath is not a side lane specialist. Talked that a little bit about the Azir in previous games as well, but Xerath needs other people shadowing, needs to be really just forcing you to respond under that tower, and Exakick not in a great spot himself. You can imagine if that extra Q landed, potential kill threat coming through, but Exakick get away with it for now.
We come back in, 19 minutes are just underneath it. A 1,500 gold lead coming in for Karmine Corp. Remember, they are the ones... Cabo! Oh, okay. Just going to burn Exakick's ultimate back away, but again, Karmine Corp are the ones in the ascendancy. They are 2-1 up. They are one Nexus explosion away from a 3-peat of Amazon EU Masters titles.
Yeah, really good bait there from Capo as well. His ultimate has a slower cooldown, or faster cooldown rather, than the likes of Exakick does, and it does allow some pressure on him. You can try and burn his flash now if you want to, but it looks like from the side of K-Corp, they're just going to be going for the reset timers. They're going to be giving blue buff over to Seiken, so he can excel his pressure in a side lane. And really, when they start getting this shot, that's why we want to see them group up again with the likes of 1-3 to really see if you can capitalize on Icon or Seraph being so far forward, because it goes back to what Alex was just talking about. He always needs shadowing. He's so immobile. You catch him off guard, he'll just die.
Which is why the play on the top lane, the Herald, meant so much to LDLC, because it meant that if they were grouping up, it wasn't grouping up with a significant gold disadvantage. It wasn't grouping up while Karmine Corp still were kind of controlling where the plays were being made. LDLC managed to, again, just control things a little more. Not that the job's done, it is very far from done. But at least they stabilized in an area of the game which was not working great for them.
Oh, 1-1-3 finds himself a catch, as we can see Doff going back in. They turn off the tower, they get the flash in. As they're going to see now, they can't turn it off for any more longer, but they'll take it down, so it cannot do any more damage. You do have Ragnar coming in. The right of the Arcane is going to do a lot of damage on the backside of this. You have the Solar Flare coming in, but Ragnar's all on his lonesome. He will take down Hantera, but Seiken's got a little bit too far forward. He's almost taken down. He will eventually fall from Ragnar's zombie. Ica trying to do work here on the backside, and what started from literally nothing, Cabochard goes too far forward, and Ica cleans it up. It's a bloodbath, and it's 4 for 4.
What a random fight. It's over a tower that falls so early into it, and we have potentially talked about Karmine Corp just taking fights when they see them, and if you do get ahead in this game, you know how much it means to shut LDLC away from a very structured, slower game with their range advantage. But this felt very messy.
It also just goes back to what we just talked about. They burned the ultimate of Exakick, so if you commit now, you know he's going to have to burn all his summoners. And it really just comes down to Yike, who's getting way too over-aggressive. You really have no need to dash forward here. You're under the tower against the Volibear, and there you have it. Exakick forced to use all his summoner spells in the beginning. Ragnar then finding access to the backline with an and immense damage right after the Arcane comes through, and that's really why you can see all this damage laid down. But it's still very messy in the end, and Seiken, despite finding the likes of Extra Kick, he'll have to give his life for it.
Also, when you're in these kind of fights, Hullbreaker rarely gives you that much value. He was actually far enough away there, I believe, to actually get a Hullbreaker value in the backline. Manages to dive right into the back of it. I mean, Xerath doesn't physically have to be there, but still puts in the extra damage. And imagine if that had happened, if LDLC were actually slightly more even in gold. Karmine Corp playing with fire a little.
But we might just get it again. There's 13 seconds to this Drake. That could be soul point for Karmine Corp.
It could be. It's going to be a second Drake for LDLC. We'll see what they want to go for. Look at all the different summoners not available for either side. Kavashar does have his flash. And you will see Seiken trying to look for that big sweep once more. You can see him hunting, sniffing around, trying to find something. He's got to be careful, though, because if he gets caught out himself, he is a dead man. He still has his Banshee's Veil as we go in. The Rite of Arcane going to force Reckless outside of the pit. It's all a bit separated from Karmine Corp, and they will secure it. That's going to be soul point, but Cabo tries to jump on the backside of this one here, and now the fight can really go in favor of LDLC. Aika is still doing work here on the backside. You can see Karmine Corp, they're in two minds. Do we fight? Do we run? At the end of the day, they do nothing. An indecision is a decision in itself.
And it is really messy again. Cabo hops out of the pit, out of the way where he can threaten the backline. Aika gets to free fire for most of that fight. And even though Karmine Corp get themselves soul point, they lose themselves a smite, they're going to lose themselves a tower. This could be actually a pretty bad play for them overall.
Oh yeah, I would have definitely agreed. They lose map priority here. Finally having the mid lane open up as well allows LDLC to play way further out. They can get way more aggressive with their vision as well, get it into the enemy jungle. And once again, Alex, it goes back to what you just said. It's so damn messy. Even the Drake getting this re-engaged, you can see that Reckless is picking this up with a nice time smite, but Caboshot and Seiken is on the left side, 1-1-3 alone, and I think it's a really nice play from Hantara initially, but no one is in a position to capitalize, so when the fight finally extends, yes, there's long range on an Estral and an Asir, but it's not going to reach that.
No, and not when you're in that kind of position. Cabo and Seiken stood outside the pit. I get that Seiken was looking for the flank, but Ragnar just taking them for a walk, getting himself into the fight, says, see ya. Maybe if you can make it into the back end of the fight.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't the case there. And now, again, we were talking about the gold advantage. It used to be 2k, but then it was 1k, and now
it's 200.
Even.
Pretty much even at this point of the game. We do have the Sunfire Aegis being picked up as well by Ragnar, so he's going to be pretty decently tanky going into these fights. Has got himself a Bramble Vest as well to deal with that side lane threat. You can see now the Aika, the Azir, and the Xerath just kind of ping-pong ways. But they've started Baron. They will get caught out on this. So they can't go for it any further because they don't really have full vision control.
Yeah, but being on red side versus this comp that LDLC has means Baron retreats are very difficult. You got to try and hop over the wall against Xerath, who's poking with your magic resist reduced. You got to do that against all of his abilities there. And you got the Scion, who's got a great number of angles to go through the blue side jungle and ult straight into your team. Actually very difficult for Karmine Corp to safely start and retreat from Baron.
Luckily, in terms of mobility, they all have dashes. Like 1-1-3 is the only one who really has to blow something significant in the ultimate, but outside of that, they can allow themselves to go for a little creative plays like this. And it also just keeps LDLC in check. They'll also always have to be at the top of their toes, just being ready for a play to break out whenever from Karmine Corp, essentially, because that Baron, that goes down fast.
Actually, you know what? For the first time in this game, if you don't mind bringing up that minimap a little bit larger, we can see mid-wave pushed in for LDLC. Bot lane actually on Karmine Corp's side of the map. Only top lane going to be sorted out now. LDLC actually have a lot more breathing room than they've had at any other point during this game.
And the more important thing as well is that you see the vision they've kind of garnered for themselves. They have a path to check. They have something that they can move forward with. As you can see right now with Yike, they're saying, look, we know that we have the vision here. We know we are safe to push to this point in the map. Actually,
you know, the last time we saw Xerath in this competition, I think it was Lucka who was playing it, but that ward in the middle of mid lane there, you can just see it on the edge of your screen, is really important to Xerath, because you start walking over that. Actually, if it just goes a little bit deeper, again, Reckless, he's sat there taking so much damage. Suddenly, if Xerath is within shooting range, you're in so much threats.
It's a really tense game in between them, because it feels like whoever really gets caught can be, you know, the thrower essentially of this game. You know, you don't want to be that guy, and
that
you need to be respectful of him. Exactly.
Incredible.
Especially for LDLC, who's already a game down. At least from Karmine Corp, they have one more game to give. But for LDLC, it's all or nothing.
All or nothing is Extra Kick. Let's be a bit careful here. Cabochard will go aggressive. They won't get any roots down, but Hantara taking a lot of damage. Seiken forced off the backside. There's the right of the Arcane. They're going to try and land this poke down onto Reckless. Doesn't really land onto anybody. 1-1-3 just jumps straight onto Ragnar, and they kind of jump back out. Everyone's getting a little bit antsy, a little bit tentative, and you can see the damage from the Xayah is getting very significant.
It just feels like a stalemate, a little bit of a standoff in between them. It's just who's willing to push the trigger, who's the one who's going to go first. Even when they go for the engage, it's just neutralized immediately by 1-1-3.
And it is a stalemate, and it is a standoff. But I think about this, I think even if one straight skill shot hits from LDLC onto someone important, if that right of the Arcane connects with 2 shots or so, it's very, very difficult.
All right.
Up to this dragon now, though.
Just about to say, 40 seconds to spawn. We have pretty much summoners across the board. We're just waiting on DOS's flash, which I believe should be coming up just after it, but of course he has Hex flash as well. Now, Mera, where are we looking at right now? Because Kabashard, he's going to be sitting on that Mega for a little bit. Hantera, I'm going to try and jump into Ragnar. They could maybe burn a flash off of him right here. Don't know if they're going to be committing a lot to this to try and burn him down. He's very tanky.
He has a hull breaker.
I was going to say he has a hull breaker, and now they can fully commit on the Kabashard, who gets kicked back. He has to flash back over the wall. They tried to get the feathers to fly. You've used so much here as Karmine, and you've gained nothing.
And Ragnar has a TP. Cabo has that too. Both these top laners are going to come back into it, but Karmine Corp, I respect the attempt, but this is a tanky hull breaker Scion. They don't win that first engagement.
Yeah, the ultimate's a solo cooldown as well. Ragnar almost have it. Kabashard is coming back up as well. They're both coming in with their teleports, and this might just be a flip for that Drake.
Here we go. They're going to put down some poke. 1-1-3.
Oh,
Almost dead. He's gone, and that's going to be the dragon. He got it before he died. They get the soul. He died and got the dragon. What an absolute play from him. And Cabo can get onto this backside now. Reckless is free hitting. Seiken is huge, and Karmine Corp, they might have just done it. Seiken, they have gotten the triple kill. It's Exekick versus the world. He can maybe get down Cabo, but no one else should fall, and that is huge for Karmine.
Karmine Corp, they try at first, pick off the one member. That doesn't work, but when everyone is on the board, find themselves a huge fight, get themselves that soul, moving over towards that Baron, and Karmine Corp, out of what seemingly felt like a very difficult situation, find a huge win.
This is going to be the fight. Everyone is going to be looking back at Volibear picking up with what I would assume would be the E after he died as well. Then the fight coming through with multiple members, finding montage plays. Yike, 5 seconds for him to spawn. 1-1-3, still around the vicinity. This should just be Baron gone as well.
And how the heck does that happen? With no one dying from Karmine Corp. You see Exekick alive at the end of it. You see Ica free hitting throughout so much of this, and so much went on. I'm looking at this, and it's just so difficult.
It is just the E. It's a misfire. It's the E. I can't believe it. That's incredible in a European Masters Finals. It always feels like when it matters the most, that's where we start messing up. That's where you start seeing the nerves. And for moments like this to happen right now, absolutely incredible.
Sans interview just before this series, Exekick was talking about, yeah, I mean, it's hard playing on these kinds of stages. It's hard to play on this kind of stage with this kind of pressure, and it does mean that there's extra factor which comes into it.
What a play from Karmine Corp right now. Again, you get the Baron, you get yourself back into the Ascendancy, 4,000 gold now ahead, and it looked like everything went wrong. You blew everything to kill Ragnar. You didn't technically smite steal it, but it's a massive, massive mistake from
I don't think
Yike.
they're going to be worrying about technicalities at that point. I think they'll just take it.
Yeah, screw the technicalities at this point, and now Karmine Corp, they're pushing in 2 waves. You have the Asiaturi coming in for the mid lane stacked up wave. Kabashard's just going to be pushing from the bottom lane. He's got that hull breaker to deal with. It's going to be difficult from the side of LDLC to punish this. There's still the range coming through from Reckless as well if he wants to start sieging up. The same can be said for Seiken. Slowly but surely, these turrets, they should just start falling.
And LDLC, they were really banking a lot of their wave clear. Baron stops you from doing that. It really hurts your opportunities to kind of stabilize this map again. And against that Mountain Assault, you are a poke comp. You are outrange. Every time you go for those skill shots, if you don't land on cooldown over and over, that shield regens. One missed skill shot gives them an extra amount of HP, and it makes your job so hard to play through it. They're playing through burst, they're playing through lockdown onto a single target. That makes it very easy for Karmine Corp to see it coming.
Got a hell of a lot of damage. Reckless going to be forced to use his own heals. The right of the Arcane comes out. They even get the Guardian out of Hantera as well. But that turret is but a sneeze away from being knocked over here by the big bad wolves that are Karmine Corp, even as Pantera just kind of pushing around. You still have a minute left on this Baron, but they could honestly take mid and maybe even go for a little bit more.
But that's why it's so difficult to do. Like, the waves are synced up. Now they're desynced a little bit, but the members, they still have to deal with the poke coming through now from Karmine Corp, and they can't. That's why the mid lane inhibitor will now fall. They can then beeline it down towards the bot side. A mid lane wave, or bot lane wave rather, will be crashing now as well, and Cabo, he's going to push it in.
Getting ready with that Mega Dart. getting ready. What seems like the last attempt.
Here we go. They're going to look for something here. 113 had to use his ultimate in response to Ragnar. He almost gets caught out, but they do catch out DOS. DOS goes golden. Cabo Shard is taking a lot of damage here. Yike goes onto the backside. The feathers go flying, and that's going to be Cabo dead. Now you can trade it back for your jungler. It's a 1-for-1 trade. DOS gets out with literally a sliver of HP. Extra kick still very big, but as is Reckless.
And Yike actually gets a kick there. And it was close. It was so close to getting the Ezreal into that backline. We saw what that Lee Sin can do. From Skeens on Vitality B in that semi-finals held Karmine Corp under such large pressure in those late game fights, but it wasn't quite enough at this point, and Karmine Corp, they get away with it.
And it's going to be even more difficult to deal with now. Cabo has that teleport. He can continue down towards the bot side with the hull breakers and scoring in the super minions. But let's have a look at the replay once again. 113, I think the last two fight, he's been exceptional at just stopping Ragnar's engage by becoming immobilized. Once again, Cabo Shot, I think he dives too far forward here. Luckily for them, Yike is looking for the highlight play as well. Gets the Ezreal, but easy to get out with the Arcane Shift afterwards, and then the fight just kind of sealed at this point.
And, you know, for all the attention that has been put on Karmine Corp's players, 113 is a player which had a lot of criticism for a lot of volatile games, a lot of those early games going awry. But you know what? When he heads into those team fights, this guy has been exceptional. I do think Yike on the other side has also been exceptional. This has been a high-tier caliber clash in terms of those team fights later on in those games with 113 making his mark and potentially walking towards a title.
1 minute until Elder Dragon spawns. You're seeing a little bit of pressure being put up onto this top side, as this is the only one with inhibitor left available for LDLC. You are starting to hit pretty critical item points. I go up to level 16, as is Ragnar. DOS no longer with that stopwatch means he doesn't have the invulnerability. The base defense against the Supermains has been left to exit kick as he starts to build up possibly even his final item.
But not only that, right, you got 40 seconds, then Elder Drake is spawned. If he gets triple inhibitor before that objective comes around on the map, there's going to be so much pressure on LDLC. The last objective might not even be the Drake. You have double teleport.
Oh, they're going for Cabo. They're trying to just get him maybe up to above the exhaust point, but they've invested quite a lot here. DOS is going to have to try and find his way out of this. He flashes, but is followed immediately by Cabo, and now you've lost your wards and your engage. You tried to get away the Mega Gnar, but I just don't think it was worth it.
And it's 10 seconds till that Elder. Karmine Corp, they've got themselves a huge advantage to pile on top of what they already had. Cabo sticking towards this bot lane again.
Gonna keep pushing, keep fishing right now. Reckless gonna start off that dragon with 113 and Seiken. Yike, you need to play hero here, but you got a lot of big bosses waiting for you. I don't think they're gonna allow you anywhere near this pit. He's already down below half HP. Right, the arcane goes in. Can he get the steal? He cannot. And that feels like the final nail in the coffin. Ica will not survive. Seiken gets the sweep back as Exakick tries to keep him and his team alive. Ragnar will go down as the dragon wars, and Seiken can still stay alive. I think they've done it.
That's it. There's got to be the Nexus. Crown them 3 times over.
This is it. A dynasty within the ERLs. Karmine Corp say to LDLC, you are just another brick in the wall, and that wall is blue as Karmine Corp become the first ever 3P champions.
3 in a row. That's absolutely crazy to think about at this point in the ERL.